Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my YouTube channel. Tomorrow you are writing your Combined Science Paper 2, and in this video I'm going to provide the final exam tips using the paper that was written in 2018. So you need to know about the enzymes that are used in the digestion. For example, in specimen 2018, there was a question which was saying, state the enzyme that catalyzes the digestion of starch. So the name of the enzyme is the amylase. So we write our amylase. This is the enzyme that is involved in the breakdown of starch, and it is also very important for you to know the end products of digestion. Starch is broken down by the amylase for us to have the glucose, and then the enzyme that is used for fat, it is the lipase. You need to know that the fats, they are broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. And then on part 2, state the end product of the digestion of proteins. So the correct answer is the amino acids. When we break down the proteins, we are going to get amino acids, and we use the trypsin and pepsin. These are enzymes that breaks down the proteins into amino acid. And then on B, state N1 adaptation of the alveolus for the efficient gaseous exchange. So this is a frequently examined question. You need to know the questions on adaptation. They can ask you the adaptation of the alveolus, the adaptation of the red blood cells, etc., and also the adaptation of other specialized cells like the palisade cells, adaptation of the leaves, etc. So you need to be able to link structure to function. The main adaptation of the alveolus, they are 1 cell thick, which is there from short diffusion distance. And also they are highly folded, meaning there is high surface area to volume ratio for gaseous exchange. They have permeable walls which enable gases to pass through. They are also covered by rich blood supply of capillaries, which provide for diffusion gradient. So we talk about 1 cell thick, and you link this structure to function. This 1 cell thick, it is there to provide the short diffusion distance, right? So this is how you are expected to write your answers. You are supposed to link structure to function. So 1 cell thick, this is for short diffusion distance. So make sure that you understand the adaptations. They can select the adaptation of red blood cell, adaptation of palisade cell, adaptation of the leaves, right? So we need to proceed to the next question. We are having Fig 1.1. It is a graph showing one factor that affects the rate of transpiration on a sun day, and we are required to name the factor that is being investigated. So here we are investigating the light intensity. So we write our light intensity here so that you get your 1 mark. And then explain the shape of the graph. So I want you to see something. Our light intensity increases from morning to midday, resulting in increase of rate of transpiration. After midday, the temperature or light intensity decreases, resulting in decrease in the rate of transpiration. So we are supposed to explain the shape of the graph. We are saying from this point, from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., right? Can you see that the light intensity increases, which also result in the increase of rate of transpiration. And then the rate of transpiration is maximum here at the 12 p.m. But when we are now moving from 12 p.m. going back to 6 p.m., the rate of transpiration is decreasing as the light intensity decreases. So when we are explaining, you are going to write that the light intensity increases from morning to midday. This is going to resulting in increase of rate of transpiration. And then after that, when we shift from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., the rate of transpiration decreases as the light intensity decreases. So this is what you need to explain on number 1C. So we are now proceeding to the next question. This is number 2. On number 2A, state N2 methods of vegetative reproduction in plants. The methods, we have the grafting. It is one of the vegetative reproduction. We have grafting. We have the cuttings. We also have the budding. We also have the rhizomes. So these are some of the vegetative reproduction methods. So let me list some of them. We have the grafting, layering, cutting, budding, tissue culture, and rhizomes. And then give 2 examples of plants that reproduce by the vegetative means. So we talk about the sugarcane. We also have the bananas, and then the other plants, we have the sweet potatoes, the onions, the pineapples, the strawberry, etc. And then next we are required to describe N3 advantages of vegetative reproduction. So you need to know the advantages of vegetative reproduction and also the disadvantage of vegetative reproduction. You need to know the advantages of sexual reproduction and also the disadvantage of sexual reproduction. So one of the advantages of the vegetative reproduction, it is in the preservation of characteristics. It helps in the preservation of characteristics. It helps in the preservation of characteristics of plants. Another advantage, it is a rapid method of propagation. So don't just say it is faster, it is easier. You're supposed to explain, because the question is saying describe. So vegetative reproduction, it is a rapid method of propagation because there is no need for germination, the needs for fertilization. It is just rapid. It produces the results within a short period of time. So that is what we need to explain we talk about a rapid method of propagation. It is a rapid method of propagation. And also, it is a way of making it possible to produce seedless varieties such as banana. So we can produce the seedless varieties such as banana using this method. So make sure that you can answer such kind of question. You can give the advantages of the advantages of sexual, the disadvantages of sexual, etc. So we are now proceeding to number 3. The nuclide notation of elements X and Y are given below. State the number of protons and neutrons in element X. So the number of protons, it is the one that is at the bottom. We are going to write 11 as the number of protons. And then the number of neutrons, we say 23 minus 11 in order to get 12 as our answer. And then on part 2, give the nuclide notation for a possible isotope of Y. So the isotope, they have the same number of protons. So when we are drawing our nuclide notation, we are supposed to have the same number of protons, and then it is the mass number that is going to be different. Here we put 37. This is going to be a possible isotope of Y. And then on part 2, we are required to write the electronic configuration of element X. Let us check the element X. This is the element X. This is the element X, right? So we are required to write the electronic configuration of the element X. So the element X, it is having 11 protons. So the 11 protons, it means that in the first shell, we are having a total of 2 electrons, and then in the second shell we are having 8, and then finally in the last shell we are having 1. So that if we say 2 plus 8 plus 1, we get a total of 11 electrons. And then part B, calculate the relative molecular mass of sulfuric acid. So when we are calculating the relative molecular mass, we need to know that we are having 2 hydrogens. So we say 2 times 1, because the atomic mass for hydrogen is 1. We are having 1 sulfur. The atomic mass for sulfur is 32. And then we are having 4 oxygens. So we say 4 times 16. So that we are going to get the relative molecular mass is 98. Because if we say 4 times 16, we get 64. 64 plus 32, we get 96. 96 plus 2, 98. This is going to be our answer. And now we are proceeding to number 4. Fig 4.1 shows the structure of a hydrocarbon. Define the term hydrocarbon. So the hydrocarbon is an organic compound consisting of hydrogen and carbon only. So we are saying it is an organic compound It is organic compound with hydrogen and carbon only. So make sure that you don't omit the only, because it is organic compound with hydrogen and carbon only. And then name the hydrocarbon in Fig 4.1. This one is known as ethene. Ethene is the one that has 2 carbons and 4 hydrogens. So we are going to write our answer is ethene. And then explain why the hydrocarbon is said to be unsaturated. So it is unsaturated because it contains less than maximum possible number of hydrogen atom per carbon atom. And then part 4, name the homologous series to which the hydrocarbon belong. This is an alkene. The alkenes are the ones that have this double bond. So let us proceed to the next question. And then state N2 uses of the hydrocarbon. We are required to give the use of the ethene. So N2 uses the ethene, it is used as industrial fuel gas. So when we are writing, this is used as a biofuel. And then it is also used as a monomer in plastic production. So this is one of the use of ethene. It is used in plastic production as the monomer. And then another use of the ethene, it is also used artificially to ripen the fruits. So it is used in the agricultural field to artificially ripen the fruits. So we write fruits ripening. And then on number 5, define the term current. So current, it is the rate of flow of charged particles such as electrons or ions in a conductor or space. So we are saying current is the rate of flow of charged particles. In a conductor. And then next, state the standard international unit of current. Current is measured in amperes. And then next, on B, state the two electric conductor from the list given below. We are having the salt solution is an electrical conductor. So we write salt solution. We also have the magnesium ribbon. It is an electrical conductor. Magnesium ribbon. And also the carbon rod. It is an example of electric conductor. So if you list N2 of these, you're going to get your marks. And then part C, a bulb is rated 60 watts, 240 volts. Calculate the current it draws. So you need to know that current is equal to power over voltage, right? So if you want to get all the marks, you need to provide the formulas. That is the first step. You do the correct working. Our power, it is 60 watts, and we are dividing by 240 volts. And then we say 60 divided by 240, we get 0.25. And you need to know that the current is measured in amperes. So you write 0.25 amperes for you to get all the 3 marks. So let us now proceed to number 6. Fig 6.1 shows a solar cooker. Suggest with a reason the most suitable color of the pot. So the most suitable color is black. Why is black a good suitable color for the pot? This is because black is good absorber of heat. Black color is a good absorber of heat. So the reason the most suitable color of the pot we selected black, it is because we can have the maximum heat energy from the sun. It can be absorbed and food is heated up for cooking. And then next we are required to explain why the solar cooker is caved. It is caved in order to direct sunlight to a small area in order to generate heat for cooking. So this is mainly to focus or to direct sunlight. It is caved to direct, or we write to focus the sunlight to a small cooking area. And then next one, it is saying why it has the shine surface. This is to reflect extra sunlight onto the pot. The main reason for the shine surface is it reflects extra sunlight onto the pot. Let us proceed to the next question. Number 6, state the two other ways by which heat is transmitted apart from the radiation. So we have the conduction, and also we have the convection. So these are three ways of heat transfer: the radiation, conduction, and convection. So that was all about the section A. We can now proceed to section B. So in section B, answer N2 questions. Write your answers in spaces provided on the question paper. So you need to know that these are some of the specialized cells that they can examine you. You need to know the different types of specialized cell that we have. So A, it is known as the muscle cell. We write muscle cell. And then B, it is known as the red blood cell. So we write red blood cell. You also need to know other specialized cells like the root hair cells, the palisade cells, etc. And then explain how C is adapted for its function. B is the red blood cells, so we are required to explain how the red blood cells are adapted for their function. So the red blood cell, we talk about the biconcave disc shape. Biconcave disc shape. So they have a biconcave shape which maximizes the surface area to absorb the oxygen. It is not only about writing biconcave disc shape and you end there. You're supposed to link structure to function. So you write biconcave shape which maximizes the surface area to absorb oxygen. They also have the hemoglobin. You need to talk about the hemoglobin. So again, it is not a matter of just writing hemoglobin. You're supposed to link that hemoglobin to function. They contain the hemoglobin, which binds to oxygen. And also, you need to talk about the red blood cell lacking the nucleus. They lack nucleus, and it is not all about just saying they lack nucleus. You're supposed to link structure to function. Why is it important that they don't have the nucleus? This is to provide more space for hemoglobin. This is going to give more room or more space for hemoglobin. Next, we are going to proceed to number 7. Number 7, 7a part 3, it is requiring us to outline how blood provides the immunity to the body. So the blood, it consists of white blood cells. So you mention about the white blood cells. The blood consists of white blood cells which resist and destroy invading organisms such as the viruses and bacteria. And then on B part 1, state N2 conditions that are necessary for seeds to germinate. We need water, or you write moisture, right? We also need the oxygen. And also we need suitable temperature. We need the suitable temperature. So if you are asked the conditions necessary for seed germination, we have water or moisture, oxygen, and proper temperature. And then on part 2, a farmer planted 640 maize seeds on a prepared piece of land, and after 7 days 480 seeds germinated. Calculate the percentage germination. So we say the total number of seeds that germinated, we are having 480, and then we divide by the total number of seeds that were planted, it is 640, and we say times 100%. So this 0 cancel this 0, and then we say here we are going to have, let me punch on the calculator, 480 divided by 640 times 100, I'm getting 75%. This is going to be the percentage germination. So that was all about the number 7. We can proceed to number 8. Fig 8.1 shows the structure of a flower. State the functions of part L, M, and N. So L is the anther. Let us label first. This is the anther. Our L is the anther. Our M, it is known as the style. And then N is known as the sepal. It is very important for you to be able to label the structure of a flower. So the function of the anther, it is to produce the pollen grains. So we write produce pollen grains. And then M we said it is the style. It carries the pollen grain from the stigma to ovary via the pollen tube, and it supports the stigma to be in position, to maintain its position. So the style it keeps the stigma in position. It keeps the stigma in position. And also it is where the pollen tube grows. And then N, which is the sepal, it protects the flower whilst it is still in the bud. So protect flower in a bud. And then next, let us answer the next question. Suggest the type of pollination of the flower. So this one is an insect pollination. This is because of that large petal. So this is an insect pollination. And then give 2 reasons for your answer in A part 2. Can you see that the petal is large so that they can be easily spotted by the insect? So we talk about the large petal. Large petal to attract the insect. And also, when we are giving the characteristics of an insect pollinated flower, can we see that the stigma is deep within the corolla? It is not protruding out of the flower like from wind pollinated flowers. So this is one of the reasons why we are saying this is an insect pollination. And we can also see the nectaries. It is having the nectaries in order to attract the insects. And also the stigma is deep within the corolla. Stigma is deep within the corolla. So you need to get prepared, be able to distinguish the insect pollinated flowers and the wind pollinated flowers. Be able to distinguish the two. They can ask you a question on the differences between insect pollinated flowers and also the wind pollinated flowers. Let us proceed to the next question. We are now on number 8A, part 4. On number 8A, part 4, we are required to explain how the male sex cell gets to the female sex cells. So here we are, the question is still on that flower. We can't explain how the male sex cells gets to female sex cells in humans, yet the question is still on flower. So we are supposed to explain how it occurs in the flower. So the pollen grain, it falls on the stigma, releasing the male sex cells, which reach the ovary through the style in order to fertilize the egg. So when we are explaining here, in summary, we talk about the pollen grains falling on stigma, and then after that we talk about the pollen tube. This is going to reach the ovary through the pollen tube. Right? And then finally, pozoitica, the fusion of the fusion of the eggs and the pollen grains and it. So in summary, we are saying the male sex, which is the pollen grain, it fell on stigma, releasing the male sex cells which reach over through the style to fertilize the egg. And then on part B, state N2 signs of puberty in males. So here we need to give the signs of puberty specifically in males. So number 1, there is the growth of penis. Growth in penis size and darkening of skin or on scrotum and testicles. So there's growth of penis, and also we have the darkening of skin on scrotum, darkening of scrotum skin, They also experience the wet dreams. When we are talking about the wet dreams, they ejaculate at night while sleeping, and also their voice will change because their vocal cords and their voice box gain mass. So this is the signs of puberty in males. We are now proceeding to number 9. We are required to define the aerobic respiration. So we have 2 types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Be able to distinguish the two. They can ask you the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So the aerobic respiration, it is a process of breaking down of food particles in cells in the presence of oxygen in order to release energy. So this is what needs to come out in your definition. We are breaking food. In presence of oxygen in order to produce energy. And then next, state the 3 differences between inhaled and exhaled air. So whenever you are giving the differences, you're supposed to come up with a table like this, right? And then we say this is for inhaled and this one is for exhaled. You are required to give the percentages. For example, we say for oxygen, we write our oxygen here. For oxygen, inhaled air, it is having 21% oxygen, whilst it has the 16% oxygen for exhaled air. We talk about the carbon dioxide concentration. Inhaled, it has the 0.04%, whilst the exhaled air, it is going to have 4% carbon dioxide. We talk about the water vapor. So the water vapor in inhaled air, it is lower, and then in exhaled air, it is higher. So this is what is expected when you are giving the differences between inhaled and exhaled air. So make sure that you just don't write inhaled air, it has high percent of oxygen, or it has the low percentage of carbon dioxide. You are required to specify the percentages. And also some of you, they have a tendency of putting the difference of nitrogen concentration. that one, it can't be put on the difference. Rather, it is the similarity between inhaled and exhaled air. Because exhaled air, it has 78%, inhaled air, it has 78% nitrogen. So we can't give that point as differences. Rather, it is the similarity between the two. And then state two products of aerobic respiration in plants. So for aerobic respiration in plants, we are going to have the carbon dioxide, we have the water, and also we have the energy. So make sure that you can give the products of anaerobic respiration in humans and also in yeast cells, right? And then state and explain two adaptation by desert plants in order to reduce the transpiration. So for you to get the 4 marks, you are supposed to link structure to function. So we talk about the desert plants, they have spines instead of leaves, right? The spines decrease the surface area for transpiration. This is there to decrease surface area for transpiration. So that is what we need to explain. They have spines instead of leaves to decrease the surface area for transpiration, right? You get your 2 marks. And then another point, you need to explain that they have a thick cuticle. So they have a thick cuticle. They have a thick cuticle. Why is this important? This is to lower the transpiration rate. Also, the leaves, they roll up in bright sun day. So you talk about the rolling up of leaves. Rolling up of leaves. Leaves roll up on bright sun day in order to hide the stomata inside, blocking the direct contact of stomata with the light, reducing transpiration. You also talk about the hairy leaves. It is one of the adaptation of the leaves in order to reduce the transpiration. And then we now need to proceed to the section C. Section C is on chemistry section. Table 10.1 shows the effect of 3 substances, A, B, and C, on universal indicator solution. State the function of the universal indicator solution. It is used to measure the pH value in a solution. It is used to measure the pH value in a solution, and then deduce the nature of substance B and C. So B is neutral, and then C is a strong alkali. So that red, it is strong acidic. Then B, which is green, it is a neutral solution. And then purple, it is a strong alkali. So make sure that you understand the universal indicator and also the litmus paper, how the acids and bases behave in using the litmus paper and also the universal indicator. and then dilute hydrochloric acid is reacted with magnesium carbonate. State the type of reaction. So the reaction is known as the neutralization reaction. Why? Because we are reacting a base and an acid. The base is the acid, the base is the magnesium carbonate, the acid is hydrochloric acid. And then on part 2, we are now required to write a word equation for the reaction. So this is a key word here. They want a word equation, not a chemical equation, right? So we say hydrochloric acid reacts with magnesium carbonate. This is going to form the magnesium chloride plus carbon dioxide plus water. So this is how you get the 2 marks. So you need to pay attention. Sometimes they will require you to write the chemical equation, and sometimes they would require you to write the word equation. So let's say if it was the chemical equation, we are saying hydrochloric acid reacts with magnesium carbonate. Just like this. This is going to give us magnesium chloride plus water plus carbon dioxide. So you need to make sure that the equation is balanced. To balance our equation, we need to put a 2 here so that we have 2 hydrogens in the reactant and 2 hydrogen in the product side. 1 magnesium, 2 chlorine, 1 carbon, 3 oxygen, 1, 2, 3 oxygen. This is now a balanced equation. So it is very important for you to be able to balance the equations. We need now to proceed to number 10. So number 10, the chemical equation for 2 redox reaction are given below. Define oxidation in terms of oxygen. So in terms of oxygen, oxidation is the gain of oxygen. Oxidation is defined as the gain of oxygen. For example, if we react hydrogen and oxygen, we are going to get water. This is an example of oxidation. And then in terms of electron transfer, oxidation is the loss of electrons. So by doing this, you get your 2 marks. And then on part 2, state what happens in terms of oxidation and reduction to iron 2 chloride and copper oxide in the 2 redox reaction. So for iron chloride, iron is oxidized as it loses 2 electrons. So this is what is happening. We are having the iron. It is going to be oxidized so that we have the iron 2 plus 2 electrons. This iron has lost the 2 electrons. So oxidation is occurred. And then, so we write oxidation here, right? State what happens in terms of oxidation reduction to iron chloride and copper oxide in the two redox reaction. So the chlorine is reduced by the gaining of the two electrons. So when we are writing what have happened to chlorine, we say 2 chlorine plus 2 electrons in order to get 2 chloride. So on iron we have the oxidation, and then on chlorine we have the reduction, right? And then we need to proceed to copper oxide, right? For copper oxide, copper 2 oxide was reduced in order to get copper. It has lost the oxygen, and oxidation number decreases from +2 to 0. So when we are completing here, we say the copper oxide was reduced for us to get the copper. Copper oxide has lost the electron, so we are now having just the copper without the oxygen, which means that reduction is occurred. So we now need to proceed to number 11. Fig 11.1 shows the blast furnace used for the extraction of iron. We are required to name the substance that enter the furnace through ACE. So through ACE we are going to have the hot air, and then state what is released through ARA. So through ARA we are going to have the waste gases. Right, so we now need to proceed to the part B. So in part B, describe the main reactions which occur in the blast furnace. So we are required to give the sequential order in which the reactions takes place, right? So the first reaction that occurs, this is the first reaction. The coke or carbon, it burns with oxygen. This is going to produce the carbon monoxide, right? So we say carbon plus oxygen in order to get the carbon dioxide. First stage, we react carbon plus oxygen in order to get the carbon dioxide, right? You are supposed to explain in words, because here I'm just describing, but when you are writing, you write in words. We say carbon plus oxygen in order to produce the carbon dioxide, and then that carbon dioxide, it then reacts with coke in order to give us the carbon monoxide, right? So we are saying carbon dioxide plus coke in order to give us carbon monoxide. And then number 3, the carbon monoxide acts as a reducing agent, and it reacts with iron ore to give us molten iron. So we say iron ore plus carbon monoxide. This is going to give us the pure iron plus carbon dioxide. So make sure that you understand how to balance this equation. 1 mole of iron ore react with 3 moles of carbon monoxide for us to get 2 moles of iron and 3 moles of carbon dioxide. So this is the third equation. And you also need to explain that the limestone is going to decompose to make the sludge which floats on top of the iron ore and can be removed. So we say calcium oxide, it reacts with silicon dioxide in order to form the calcium silicate. So this is what is known as the sludge. The sludge float on top of iron ore and can be removed. So these are the stages that occur in the blast furnace. Coke or carbon burns with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide then reacts with coke to give carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide acts as a reducing agent and reacts with iron ore to give the molten iron. Limestone decomposes to make the sludge which float on top of iron ore and can be removed. And then explain the advantages of having the sludge covering the molten iron. So it protects the iron from oxidation. It protects the iron from oxidation. Sludge protects iron from oxidation by the atmosphere, and this keeps the iron clean. And then next, we are now required to work a question on empirical formula calculation. The question is reading: a sample of iron oxide was found to contain 70% iron. Find the empirical formula of the iron oxide. So the first step is that we are going to list the elements that are present in the compound. We are having iron and oxygen. We write their percentages: 70% iron, and then for oxygen is going to be 30%. We divide by their atomic masses. For iron it is 56. For oxygen it is 16. So here we are going to have 1.25, and then here we are going to have 1.875. We divide by their smallest number of moles, which is 1.25. So here we get 1, here we get 1.5. So the moment you get 1.5, you don't round up. You need to write 1.5 as a fraction. It is 3/2. And then after that, you multiply both sides by 2. So that finally, we are going to have our empirical formula is iron 2O3, because these two cancel these two. So this is going to be our empirical formula. So that was all about number 11. We now want to proceed to number 12. Number 12, it was a question on conduct process. Name the industrial process that produces sulfuric acid. It is known as the conduct process. Right, and then describe the production of sulfur dioxide in stage 1. So in stage 1, we are going to say sulfur plus oxygen in order to give us sulfur dioxide. Sulfur or iron pyrites, they are burnt in air in order to form the sulfur dioxide. So we say sulfur plus oxygen in order to get sulfur dioxide. And then next we are required to state the 3 conditions that are required in stage 2. Stage 2 is the conversion of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide. So the 3 conditions for this stage, we need vanadium pentoxide. This is going to act as the catalyst. So we write vanadium pentoxide. And then the pressure that is required, it is 1 to 2 atm. And then the temperature we need, it is temperature of 450 degrees Celsius. So exam tip here, don't just write catalyst, pressure and temperature. You're supposed to specify that the catalyst is vanadium V oxide. The pressure required is 1 to 2 atmosphere, and then the temperature is 450 degrees Celsius. And then explain why stage 3 is necessary. On stage 3, it is the production of oleum. Why is it very important for that production of oleum? This is to prevent the fuming of sulfuric acid and corrosion of pipelines that cover the tower. So it prevents fuming of sulfuric acid. And also it prevents corrosion of the pipelines. And then next, name the substance X. We need to react sulfur trioxide and concentrated sulfuric acid. So don't forget to write concentrated sulfuric acid, so that we are going to have the oleum. And then on number 12A, part 4, write an equation for the process occurring in stage 4. So they didn't specify that you are supposed to write the weight equation or a chemical equation. So you can write any of the two. If it is the weight equation, you write oleum plus water. This is going to give us sulfuric acid. Or if you decide to write using the chemical symbol, the oleum, it is H2S2O7. We react it with water in order to get the sulfuric acid. So it is very important for you to understand how to write this balanced equation, because they can specify that they want a chemical equation. And then part B, state N2 uses of sulfuric acid. So we talk about the fertilizer. Don't just write fertilizer. You're supposed to say fertilizer production, and then next, it is also used in the manufacture of batteries. So we write batteries production. It is also used in paper industry. Paper industry, they require the sulfuric acid. In fact, the sulfuric acid is called the king of chemicals because of many uses that we use the sulfuric acid. And also it is used in the production of cleaning agents. It is also used in ointments in order to treat various skin infections. So these are some of the uses of sulfuric acid. We can now proceed to the physics section. So section D, answer in 2 questions. Write your answers in the space provided on the question paper. State the Newton's first law of motion. Make sure that you understand the first law, the second, and the third law. So the Newton's first law, which is also known as the law of inertia, it says that an object at rest remains at rest, and an object in motion remains in motion at constant speed and in straight line unless acted on by an unbalanced force. And then on part 2, explain why a book sliding and experiencing a frictional force of 9 newtons keeps on sliding across a desk. So here you need to talk about the kinetic frictional force. That is what you need to explain here. Kinetic frictional force. So it is due to kinetic frictional force, or the sliding friction, which keeps a surface sliding on another surface. And then part B, a block of mass 2 kg is accelerated by a force of 4 newtons. Calculate the acceleration. So the formula, we applied the Newton's second law of motion. We say force is equal to mass times acceleration. Here we are required to find the acceleration, so we divide by mass. So the force is 4 newtons, the mass is 2 kg. We are going to get, our answer is 2 meters per second squared. So for you to get all the marks, provide the formula, the working, and also you are supposed to provide the answer and correct units. State the 3 events which occur in the power stroke of the petrol engine. So when the piston ascends and reaches the top dead center, there is spark ignition that occurs. So you need to talk about the spark ignition. Number 1. This is the first step. And then this spark ignition, it causes the expanding and the building of pressure in the combustion chamber. So you explain about the expansion of gases, right? So the resulting pressure, it pushes the piston down with several tons of force. So you need to explain that is when we are going to see the piston moving downwards. And when piston moves downwards, this is going to cause the vehicle to move. Why? Because we are having the electrical energy being converted into the kinetic energy. So when you are explaining, when piston ascends and reaches the top dead center, electric current ignites the spark plug, and as the mixed gas burns, it expands and builds pressure in the combustion chamber. The resulting pressure pushes the piston down with several tons of force. This is going to cause the vehicle to move. And then on part 2, state 1 advantage of modern petrol engines over the old petrol engines, right? That is where we are going to talk about the modern petrol engine. They are smaller, they release less noise. They are less noise. They are more powerful. They are also clean. They don't emit the gases more. The modern are much smarter, smaller, more powerful, more efficient than the older engines. So that was all about number 13. We are about to finish off the paper. We are now on telecommunication. Define the term telecommunications. These are the means of electronic transmission of information over the distance in form of voice, calls, data, text, images, or videos. So in summary, we are saying telecommunication, this is means of electronic transmission of information over distance using the voice, calls, data, text, etc. And then give 2 examples of telecommunication systems. So we have the telephone network, we also have the computer networks, we have the radio broadcasting system, and also the internet. Fig 14.1 shows the components of a communication system. Name the component A and C. So A is the sender, while C is the receiver. And then on part 2, describe the function of component A. Component A, it is the sender. The role of the sender is to create the information, and convert it to a signal. The role of the sender is to create the information and convert it to a signal. Describe the 2 advantages of cell phone over a landline. So you can play the games, you can stream online, watch videos, read the books, listen to music, whereas the landline are only for receiving and outgoing calls. You can do online banking, which is not possible using the cell phone, and which is not possible using the landline. So when we are giving advantages, you talk about these advantages. You can play games, you can do online banking, you can stream online, you can read books, which is not possible with landline. which is not possible using the landline. So that was all about number 14. We are now moving on to the last question. So the last question, Fig 15.1 shows the energy conversion in a thermal power station. Name the possible primary source of energy in Zimbabwe. So the possible primary source of energy is the coal. And then we are required to state 2 disadvantages of the energy source named in part 1. So the disadvantages of using coal, it is non-renewable source of energy. This is a non-renewable source of energy. And also it emits toxic substances which harm the human health. Coal is non-renewable source of energy. It also emits toxic and carcinogenic substances into our air, water, and land, affecting human health. And then give the form of energy represented by A. So A, we are having the primary source of energy converted into the furnace, and then we have the thermal. Either you write thermal or you write heat energy. Both answers are accepted. Right, and then next, this is the last part of the question. Describe what happens at stage 3 and 4. Let us go back for us to see the stage 3 and 4. So this is the stage 3, and then this is the stage 4. Right, in stage 3, the steam tubing use heat source to heat water to extremely high temperature until it is converted to a steam. Heat energy of steam is then converted into mechanical energy. The transformer now converts the generated electricity to higher voltage to make long distance distribution possible. So we are saying in the first stage, the stage number 3, this steam tubing, they use the heat source in order to heat water to extremely high temperature until it is converted to a steam. So the heat energy of steam is then converted into the mechanical energy. Transformer converts the generated electricity to a higher voltage, making it possible for long distance distribution. So that is what we are required to explain on a part 4. We now need to proceed to part B. State the energy conversion in an hydroelectric power station. So the energy conversion is that hydroelectric power station convert the potential energy. So we start having the potential energy. So this potential energy stored in water reservoir, it is converted into the kinetic energy. So by doing this, you get your 2 marks. Hydroelectric power station converts the potential energy stored in water reservoir behind a dam to mechanical energy, which is also known as the kinetic energy. and then after that we are finally going to have the electrical energy. So that was all about the specimen 2018. Thank you so much for following me on this channel. Please don't forget to subscribe